And attention all anchors for ad-free listening, bonus episodes, exclusive merchandise, and the chance to join a future recording of the podcast. You can now sign up for the FFS Club. Just head to our website, f1forsuccess.com. Well, if we sort of look at the sporadic nature of your Formula One career, you were out for a couple of years and then back in with Toyota. Why was that? I haven't sort of Googled the background of why you were in and out. Was it just finance? Was it opportunity?
Yeah, it was at the end just financial problems, let's say, or let's say there were other drivers who had more financial background, more possibilities, and Eddie had to sell the team at the end of 2004. Though the new owners in 2005 were not really interested in me as a driver because my financial budget was not as strong as the others. So my management decided to go to America to just get me somewhere else and learn racing the hard way. In 2005 in Champ Car, which is nowadays the IndyCar series, which was a great year of experience. And then 2007 or 2006, there was in the same way was like GP2 introduced the first year, and then we saw GP2 being the strong championship to get back into Formula One. We decided to come back from America in 2007 then, and 2006 and 2007 drove GP2, won the championship in 2007, and then got into Toyota. But this was all not that easy, like I said it right now. It was just like immense pressure in 2007 because Toyota wanted me to win the championship. Without winning the championship, I would have not got the seat. So, and there was a lot of stories in the background. I was like leading the championship in GP2 with 30 points. And then in the second part of the year, we had a lot of mechanical problems. Didn't finish races. And I came to the final race in Valencia being 2 points ahead of Luca Di Grassi. And just won the championship and secured my F1 seat with Toyota.
I'm curious, actually. Sorry, EJ, I'm sort of hogging the questions here. Hold your hand up if you want to join in at any point, or at least keep moving so I know you haven't passed away.
I'm alive. I'm here.
You're alive.
I'm intrigued.
Excellent.
The thing is, this is a great example, David. Even for your son and so many other kids doing karting, that, we look at the Michael Schumachers and we look at we talked about earlier, Nico Rosberg or Lewis Hamilton. They're the sort of the dream tickets. But I'm loving listening to Timo because this is a real fight for survival. He started and he got a leg up through testing the car at Jordan, and then he had that success with scoring points in his first race, and then losing it and having to go to America, which is no hardship in the first place, but then coming back and try to reestablish himself. This is perfect for our listeners because drivers, please listen to Timo because you have to believe. And that's what he did. And he kept going on. So I'm intrigued by this. So David, please continue.
Well, the Toyota time, they came in, this big fanfare of investment, doing it in Germany, which I guess for you was somewhat convenient to be there. But the reality is it was probably the wrong location to bring the sort of the talent pool of Formula One. It tends to be mainly in the UK. And then the employment regulations in Germany are a lot more stringent than maybe as you've experienced in motor racing. People work all hours that are necessary to get the job done. So did you already kind of feel like this is my opportunity now, I want to make the best of it, but it's always going to be difficult just geographically where they'd position themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I never had this really on my radar that this could be a problem for us, because when I walked in at Toyota and in the first time, I remember that really well, mid of December when we signed the contract, I was there in the night because they didn't want to or they didn't want that too many people are seeing me before it get announced. So we were like walking through the facilities and then driving with the bike from facility to facility because it was so big. And there was like everything you can imagine of to build a Formula One car, to build a winning Formula One car. We had 2 wind tunnels. We had every bloody R&D thing which you can think of. Everything was there. And I was just shocked by the the company and what pressure that means to me, you know, like I'm out there to drive that F1 car and representing Toyota as a manufacturer, plus all the 1,200 people which were working in Cologne. And that was just the overloading thing at the beginning. But I realized at the end very quickly that the problem was at Toyota, not the people. They were really, really good. It was decision-making progress. Decision having to be done very quickly took us far too long to decide things. We had like upgrades on the car, which were sort of in the gray area, and then it got stopped by Japan. So they had everything to double check with Japan, and we had like, I remember that one rear wing which was sort of stalling at the right time. It's sort of a DRS effect. We were running this already straight line testing, and it was ready to go, and it gave us like half a second at least. And they stopped it in Japan because it was just in the gray area, and they said, no, we don't want to be disqualified. We cannot go in that direction. So, you know, things like this just stopped us to make that last step. Even so, the 2010 car would have been a really, really good car. Definitely, I know that from guys from Toyota moved to Ferrari at that time when Toyota stopped in 2009. You know, they had the exact aero numbers, and we were like 10 to 15 points ahead of Ferrari in 2000 with the 2010 car, but the 2010 car never saw a racetrack. So, you know, there are a lot of things where, when I think back, I would have loved to drive the 2010 car because I think that would have been a contender for definitely a top three.
It's interesting you say that about too long to make decisions. That's what I felt. Yeah. The Jaguar team that became Red Bull, when they were owned by Ford, they would have to go to Detroit, present their ideas, come back. And I was, with my experience of Williams and McLaren, absolutely convinced you're always going to be behind the curve if you cannot have an idea, commit to it, and put it on the race car as quickly as possible. And EJ, I suspect this is something that with your time in team ownership, when budgets, you had to allocate a tight budget all the time. So how were you, Eddie, when it came to your engineers saying, look, this is a grey area? Because to me, grey areas, it's Adrian Newey famously says, he reads the regulations to see what they don't say.
Exactly.
Because if you only design to what they say, you end up with the same car as everyone else. You've got to operate in the grey. EJ, would you concur, or do you have some examples of where Jordan innovated by being in the grey area?
We loved the grey area because what we would do, Gary Anderson was absolutely brilliant. And, you know, when I talk about Adrian Newey, I also think about Gary because he was my Adrian Newey. Gary was so on the case. He said, EJ, what do you think of this? And I said, well, explain the downside and explain the upside. He said, this is what it says, but this is our interpretation. I said, well, actually, why don't we just ring Charlie, and Charlie was in charge of the FIA, and we asked him, tell him we're going to do this, we're going to see it, what is your interpretation of the legalities? And he would often say to us, he said, look, I can see where you're coming from, I understand the interpretation, however, if it's penalised or if it is protested, I'm not sure you get away with it. So we knew that it was on the cusp every time we went down that route because you had to. You know, the big guys, and that's something I'm going to come back to Timo in a minute. You know, you look at Renault when they ran their own team, you look at BMW when they ran their own team, and you look at Toyota, they all were hopeless, bearing in mind the access to cash, money, and facilities. Look, Timo just said that they had 1,200 people, and that was a 2010 or 2000 and whatever. It's just ridiculous the amount of, resources that they had compared to smaller teams. So you look at what Ken Tyrrell achieved to a much smaller way, Jordan, McLaren, of course, with Ron Dennis and Frank Williams with Williams. That's why the small, nimble little teams based in the UK with the engineering experience and the nous, and remember, most of our people would have driven karting, Formula Ford, Formula 3, Formula 3000 or Formula 2, whatever it was, and they were then in Formula 1. So it's a different kind of person. So the decision-making was always instant. We'd have to make a decision But then the great thing, which is what I always said, we never had to answer to anyone. It was just internal. So if it was going to be quick and positive, let's do it. And that's why Timo is talking about it. But he's seen both hands. He's seen, life at Jordan and life at Toyota. They're completely two ends of the spectrum.